Whoa, what is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. Hope you guys are enjoying your second day now removed from the New York Giants' fifth win on the year in just 6 short weeks. Brian Dable has already won more games this year in just his first 6 weeks as being a head coach, as the New York Giants won all of last year with 4. And people are starting to take notice. I'm not even going to talk about the power rankings. I'll just make brief notice of it. ESPN today ranked the New York Giants 5th overall in their power rankings. And I'm actually considering, I've seen other YouTubers do this in the past, especially now that the New York Giants are relevant. If you guys are interested, it would be more broad NFL, but it of course would include the Giants. And if you guys are interested, let me know in the comments below. I may start doing weekly power rankings. I'm not going to rank the entire league, but I'll rank the top 10. And if I feel the New York Giants at some point in the year fall out of the top 10, I'll just mention, where I would have them or around where I would have them. But hopefully they stay in the top 10 throughout the remainder of the year. But if you guys are interested in that, let me know. I want to make content that you guys are interested in, and it's something that would be fun. I would get to give more of a broader analysis throughout the rest of the league and give you guys my thoughts, at least, as to where I would rank some of the teams throughout the league. I wouldn't do full 32. I would do the top 10, maybe maybe throughout the weeks, the teams that I think are trending up, trending down, so on and so forth. But just an idea I had, as I was looking over the power rankings today, I said, that's a pretty good video idea, and we'll see if you guys would be interested in that type of content. But in this video, as I'm on break at work, I want to talk about a couple of topics regarding the New York Giants. One of my subscribers on Twitter pointed out to me an article from Bleacher Report. I don't always look at Bleacher Report as a very credible source, but it was taken from ESPN, from Jeremy Fowler, some of the quotes that he had that came out today in his ESPN Plus article regarding Kadarius Toney. It's at least a loose rumor. I'll talk about that. And in that same article, he also mentioned the New York Giants, at least it is being speculated from around the league, may also look to potentially acquire a wide receiver. Now, of course, we all know that the New York Giants right now are kind of strapped for cash. They don't have a lot of money, but we'll talk about it. And I'll talk about maybe some of the things that they may be looking to do at that position. If the New York Giants are going to make a move, that is the move that I think they would make if they're going to make an acquisition. I would think it would be at the wide receiver position, but I'll talk about at least the slight possibility that the New York Giants may potentially look to trade Kadarius Toney, and I'll give my full opinion on that. Also, wanted to touch on the fact that the Jacksonville Jaguars right now are a 3-point favorite, might be 2.5-point favorite now. Maybe the betting line starting to go down towards the New York Giants. But regardless, the Jaguars, according to Vegas, are the favorite to win this football game. And I'll give my opinion on that. I think a lot of New York Giants fans have been very divided, and not divided, and most Giant fans have been, felt they feel like the team is being disrespected, as you should. The New York Giants are 5-1. But I'll give my opinion as to why I feel Vegas may have that line, whether or not you agree with it or not. But I wanted to touch briefly on that, and I'm going to do a preview on the Jaguars as the week gets going along. I do think they're a dangerous team. It's certainly a team I'm not taking lightly. And also, I just want to do something different as well. I wanted to go over my player grades. I've been doing something on Twitter where each week I release my player grades for the team week to week throughout the course of the season. And I posted it today on Twitter, but I thought it would be cool to mention in a video and just go into more of a broader analysis as to why I have each one of those players having those grades. So I'll go over some of the guys that I feel are the highest graded New York Giants on an A to F scale throughout the course of the season as quickly as I possibly can. I may also do like a rookie report card, maybe tomorrow or the day after that. I think it'd be cool to go over the rookie class thus far for Joe Shane's, rookie draft class, his first year here as the GM with the New York Giants. But first, let's jump into this rumor that came out from really ESPN and then was later, basically re-reported by Bleacher Report. Opposing teams are reportedly hopeful that the New York Giants make wide receiver Kadarius Toney available ahead of the November 1st trade deadline. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reported teams wouldn't be surprised if the Giants look to move on from their often injured 2021 first-round pick. He later went on to say in the same article, Fowler also noted that rival executives wouldn't be surprised if New York explored a move at the wide receiver position, even if it didn't involve Toney, because of their lack of depth and production at the position. So he's kind of saying two polar opposites, right? We're really thin at that position to begin with, and he's saying that, at least according to his sources from GMs and I guess guys from around the league, that he is connected to. Who knows? He didn't name his sources. but he's basically saying that they may sell a wide receiver, and he's also hearing that they may buy a wide receiver. Now, why would the New York Giants look to trade Kadarius Toney? Well, first things first, I don't think they're going to trade Kadarius Toney, but I'll at least analyze this as to why they may. But I don't think they're going to trade Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney is still young. He's injured right now, and his value is as low as it could possibly be. I mean, right now, and I understand it wasn't Joe Schoen's pick, and I understand Joe Schoen has shown a history since he's been the New York Giants general manager that he doesn't really care about that. If he doesn't feel like you're going to be in the best interest of his long-term solution, he's willing to part ways, even if there's not a big financial gain, right? He cut Logan Ryan when it saved us basically nothing. He cut Blake Martinez when it saved us basically nothing. He moved on from James Bradbury, which obviously was for financial reasons, but he's shown that he's willing to do things that maybe some people feel like he should have gotten more out of in terms of cap savings, or he should have just held on to the player. So I can understand fans having the perspective, well, if he doesn't want Kadarius Toney to be here, maybe he would be willing to trade him for a very low price. I would be surprised if he traded Kadarius Toney right now because his market can't be high. He had 400 yards receiving in his rookie year, hasn't seen the field for the most part this year, has never caught a touchdown, and he's had a incredibly long laundry list of injury history. And to my knowledge, he's never shown any, poor character off the field. The only thing that I guess you could look at is he didn't show up to voluntary camp, which is voluntary, but I was not, that left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, being that you had a new GM and a new head coach. But I didn't read too much into that, and I don't think the New York Giants are going to trade Kadarius Toney. We've heard this throughout the entire offseason. Is it possible? Sure, anything's possible. But for what they would get for him, I just don't think it makes a ton of sense. I think you'd be selling way too low. I look at it like you're buying a stock. It would be like you bought a stock at like $20 a share and you're selling it for like $1 a share for a guy that's still very young. He's only his second year in the league. And I understand Giants fans that are not very fond of him. He can't get out on the football field. But I just think there's too much talent there to give up on him for what his market would currently be. Now, if the Giants were able to get a second-round pick and they didn't view him as a part of the future of this football team, I understand that. I don't think that would be his market, especially being that he's currently injured. So I don't see much of a market for that, and I'm not reading too much into that rumor. What interested me more from that was that the New York Giants, at least according to him and sources that he's talked to from around the league, are potentially interested in looking to acquire a wide receiver. And this is something I've talked about now for a couple of weeks. If it makes sense, financial sense, I could see the New York Giants doing this long before that a lot of fans started getting on board and thinking that this team could do something this year. I said if they beat the Packers, I think the New York Giants need to really start considering not being sellers rather, but looking to potentially be buyers if the right situation presents itself. A lot of people were saying, should they sell Saquon Barkley? Absolutely not. And at this point, they're not selling. If they're going to do anything, they're either going to stand pat or they're going to be buyers. And I understand the reluctancy from fans to want to trade draft capital, being that you're still thinking about the future of this football team. But if the right deal presents itself and you could get a young wide receiver in here for a reasonable cost. I'm not talking about giving up a first-round pick, but a reasonable cost, because we're going to have to use draft capital on a wide receiver anyway. I think it could make sense. You think about the ability to add a good wide receiver. I'm not even talking about getting a guy like DJ Moore. Bring in somebody here that can make an impact for an affordable price. I don't have any names, but it could make sense. It could help Saquon Barkley. It could help Daniel Jones. It could help the entire offense. It could help the offensive line. It makes the offense that much more balanced if you're able to start throwing the football. Yes, Daniel Jones has done an incredible job so far, at least in my opinion, sticking to the game plan and doing exactly what the coaching staff is asking him to do and excelling. But eventually, the New York Giants are going to have to open up this offense a bit. They're going to have to put more points on the board if they intend to do damage this year and in the future. And we all know that the New York Giants right now certainly need a number one wide receiver. So we'll see if anything develops with that. But I would not be surprised at all if the New York Giants do make an acquisition in some way, shape, or form at the wide receiver position. And Jeremy Fowler kind of hit home with that in his article on ESPN. Now we're going to just briefly touch on the Jacksonville Jaguars and why I feel like they're favored. This from their website. The Jacksonville Jaguars haven't won a game in October and are in the midst of a 3-game losing streak. The Giants are on a 3-game winning streak, improved to 5-1 with a win over the Baltimore Ravens on Sunday. Yet, it's the Jaguars that opened as 2.5-point favorites for a Week 7 matchup against the Giants. And it's left a lot of people perplexed, a lot of people questioning, how in the world is this possible? The Giants are 5-1. They got 3 more wins just 6 weeks into the season than the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's not like the Jaguars going into the year had this incredible, it wasn't like many people thought much higher them than the New York Giants, and the Giants have shown so far that they're a better football team. I mean, they're 5-1. My reasoning behind it: one, why they probably set the line where they did. The New York Giants haven't played very many road games. As a matter of fact, they've only played one. I don't count the game in London. That was a neutral field game. Yes, they traveled. They played one road game against the Tennessee Titans. Then they played 3 straight home games. Then they had the neutral field game in London. Then they came back home. So 4 out of the last 5 games have been at home. The other game was a neutral field. So it's been very favorable, the schedule for the New York Giants in that sense, right? This is going to be their first road trip. They're playing 2 straight road games. So this is a test for the New York Giants, regardless of who they have on their schedule. And maybe Vegas is looking at it like that. 2, I mean, they're obviously still underestimating us. They obviously still don't view the Giants as highly as maybe a lot of the fans do and a lot of people from around the league do, and understandably, because going into the year, we were not very highly thought of, and they're still obviously not completely bought in. If they thought the New York Giants were a true 5-1 football team, I don't care where the game was played, they would certainly have us favored right now over the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the other thing is, I do think the Jacksonville Jaguars are an impressive 2-4 team. I know it's hard to be an impressive 2-4 team, but I think they are a somewhat impressive 2-4 team. Yes, they have some bad losses, and we're going to go deeper into Jacksonville throughout the week as I do more research on them. Yes, they have some bad losses. They lost to Washington. They lost to Houston, but they also have some very impressive wins. They blew out the Chargers by 28 points, I think it was, and they shut out the Colts 24-0. So there's talent there, and it's a team much like the Giants with a new head coach that you figure is going to get better week over week. And it's kind of a must-win game for them, right? Their backs against the wall. They're a very Jekyll and Hyde club for me. But I do think the New York Giants match up somewhat favorable. I do worry about their defensive line. They have a strong defensive line. But I think Wink against a young quarterback in a new offense could certainly create some turnovers against Trevor Lawrence. And that could be the deciding factor if the New York Giants win this football game or not. But I think that some of those things that I mentioned are probably some of the reasons why Vegas may have the Jacksonville Jaguars favored against the New York Giants. Do I agree with it? No. I could have understood if the Giants were favored by 1 or 2, or even if it was a pick'em game, for some of the factors that I said regarding it being on the road, and we haven't really shown that we're able to win consistently quite yet on the road, and it's kind of our first game where there's a lot of pressure, being that now we have raised expectations as a football team. But all that being said, I'm somewhat pretty confident we're going to win this game, but I am not taking the Jacksonville Jaguars lightly. They are a tough opponent. Make no mistake about it. Now, I just wanted to briefly go over my player grades before I get back to work. But these are my highest graded New York Giants through week 6. I also mentioned, obviously, Brian Daboll at the top along with Wink Martindale. Not much needs to be said with that, right? Brian Daboll's done a phenomenal job. We have 5 wins through 6 weeks. We've already surpassed last year's win total, and it started with him setting the tone week 1 when we went for 2 against the Tennessee Titans, displaying confidence in his football team. So it starts there for me with Brian Daboll. As far as Wink goes, this defense has been one of the best defenses in the NFL thus far. They've been incredibly aggressive. They've also been very disciplined. The Giants only have 21 missed tackles this year, which is the 4th best mark in the entire league, despite the fact that they're ultra aggressive. We blitz 43% of the time, which is 7% higher than any other team in the National Football League. And Wink's defense continues to get the job done. Yeah, I know they gave up a lot of yards this week, but they were strong from within the red zone. They created 2 turnovers. They came up big when they needed to. So they both deserve an A+. Andrew Thomas, not much needs to be said there. He's still got over a 90 PFF grade. I think he's the only tackle in football that has a PFF grade over 80, both in run and pass protection. And he's been a lockdown left tackle for us, and a guy that I have full confidence will be a New York Giant for the next 10 years as the blindside protector for whoever the quarterback is. Saquon Barkley, in my opinion, is the MVP of the team thus far. He's in probably top 5 consideration for MVP overall, and the guy continues just to be the focal point of this offense. For a team that doesn't have many weapons at all outside of Saquon, he's the focal point of the opposing defense week in, week out. And he continues to find ways to deliver and help this team win football games. Dexter Lawrence, A+ for me as well. Those 3 players to me have been the best players on this team. Dexter Lawrence has made a dramatic impact on the interior for this defensive line, and he looks like a brand new player under Wink Martindale. And of course, Patterson, the defensive line coach, probably has a lot to do with that as well. But suddenly, that 17th overall pick looks a lot better. And suddenly, that Odell Beckham trade looks a lot better, being that Dexter Lawrence was the main piece in that trade. And he looks a lot better this year. Daniel Bellinger, I almost went A+, But I said, all right, I'll let him improve a little bit more before I go that high. But he could be damn near close. His blocking's definitely been above par. He's got 3 combined touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 rushing. For a rookie, that's more than you could have ever expected. So far, he is the best rookie tight end in the National Football League in basically every statistical category. You go back to last week, not just the big touchdown catch. He had 5 catches. He also had a huge block on that kick return where I think it was Brightwell that ran it back to the 50. His block sprung him. Another thing I should have mentioned about Barkley, his blocking in the pass game was really good as well, something that a lot of people used to criticize him for. Daniel Jones, I gave him an A, and maybe this is it's controversial for some of you guys because he doesn't have these immaculate stats. But Daniel Jones, from within the context of the offense, what he's been asked to do, Daniel Jones has done it. And he's come up big in big spots. He's also been really good in terms of not turning the football over. He only has probably one turnover this entire year that's his fault. And he's among the best in the league in that area. In terms of turnover-worthy plays and overall turnovers and percentage of turnovers per pass attempt, I think he's only turning over 1.3% of the time on his pass attempts. He's got 2 interceptions, one of which was a dropped route by David Sills when he was running a route. So that was more of a timing pattern, not really Daniel Jones' fault, more so bad luck. Sills, slipping to the ground. The other was that really bad interception week 1, though. I mean, that's 5 weeks ago now when he threw it to Saquon Barkley where he stared him down. I think he's got 2 fumbles, but the fumble this past week was basically a Hail Mary before the half. That shouldn't even really count. He was just trying to extend the play as long as he could to let his wide receivers get down the field. And the other fumble was when he got hit on the interior early in the year where Josh Suzuki just completely whipped on a block, and he was hit before he even completed his drop back. So in that area, he's been great. He's already got 4 fourth-quarter comebacks. I've talked about all the stats, but so far, I think I would give Daniel Jones an A. Adoree Jackson, I gave him a B+. He's been great. I'm not trying to say maybe a lot of you listening to this think he deserves an A. He's been very, very, very good. There's been a couple times where I felt like he got beat, so that's why I'm maybe being a little too harsh on Adoree. He's been given a lot more added responsibility this year, and I understand a lot of analytical people look at PFF and they'll say, well, he's got a 58 or 59 grade, but for what he's been asked to do this year with as thin as we are in that secondary, being that he's the only veteran, I think he's done a hell of a job. Julian Love this past week, A+, was the player of the game. Overall, I gave him a B+. He's been really good for this team, though. It's really the first year he's had a defined role, and he's done a tremendous job when given that opportunity. Of course, had the big batted ball. He's had a couple of pass breakups this year in big spots. Came up with the huge interception, the first interception of the year for the New York Giants football team. I also gave Kayvon Thibodeau a B+, and well-deserved. Last week, you really started to see him come into his own. He had 8 pressures the previous 2 weeks, which led all rookie edge rushers. Didn't come up with a sack. Finally got his first sack this week. I think he's also got 2 or 3 batted balls. Had the game-winning play this week with the strip sack and was getting pressure throughout the totality of that game against Lamar Jackson. So I think he's starting to come into his own, and I think he's going to be an alpha pass rusher for this football team. Xavier McKinney, the guy's consistent. Had the big batted ball against Aaron Rodgers 2 weeks ago, and he's one of the leaders of this team, a captain, and definitely one of the better and emerging safeties in the National Football League. Not much more needs to be said about him. An incredibly versatile piece in this defense. And I gave Leo a B. And like I said in the parentheses, only because he's missed time. If he played a full season, he'd probably be at least a B+, if not an A. In my opinion, if not the most important player in our defense, definitely the second or third most. So he's really good, a really good veteran. And I look forward to him and Dex continue to build with one another in the interior on that defensive line. In terms of some guys that I'd probably say are trending upwards, I didn't give them a grade because those are like my highest graded Giants. But I think the entire offensive line outside of Andrew Thomas is starting to improve, specifically Evan Neal. He had his best game as a pro this past week. Bobby did a great job breaking down the film, looked a lot better in pass protection. And I think the interior as well has gotten better. I also think Fabian Moreau has done a great job being thrown into action, and he deserves some acclaim as well. So those are some of the names I wanted to throw out. Give you guys my player grades and just talk about some of the rumors from around the NFL. And we'll talk soon. That was my boss. I got to get back to work. But as always, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.